Hi, Warren. How are you?
Good, good. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for chatting with me. I appreciate it.
Oh, me too. Me too. Appreciate it.
Um, I thought Tiger 24 was phenomenal. I really did. I did not expect it to play out. It almost plays out like these murder mystery shows, things you've seen on Netflix, which is not what I expected on a documentary about tigers. Um,
hmm
and from what I understand from what you say in the film, you didn't expect it either. So I was wondering for you, at what point did it become something else?
Oh, well, in 2015, after he was removed for the fourth kill, the alleged fourth kill, it just became something else. I mean, I was aware that he was accused of kills as I was filming and everything, but he wasn't what he became, which was like this icon for conservation and billboards erected, and I didn't expect to be going to a court for this tiger, right? And so yeah, it happened after the 2015 removal of T24. That's when it all changed.
Yeah, I mean, you say you didn't expect to be going to court for a tiger. I don't think anybody expects a sentence like that to come out of their mouth. And this feels very much like a legal drama,
hmm
for this. uh, See, I want to say wild animal, but I feel like with the way the film cares for T24, it almost feels like an injustice just to refer to him that way in some ways at this point. Um,
Yeah, I mean he's a wild animal, but he became a symbol for conservation. And I think his story is really important for all tigers and all large predators because they're really important species, like keystone species, and preserving them preserves their habitat. And when he was first removed, I was actually here in the US doing a commercial job, and I got this call. And I got really emotional that he was being removed. And then the field director was courteous enough to let me know he knew that I was filming T24, so he let me know. And there was a bit of a conversation that I could fly immediately and film the removal. But when the activism exploded, he had to like make a much more quicker decision to remove the tiger. And so, yeah, I got emotional, and I started. I came back. I started meeting the lead activist Chandrabal Singh, who took it to the court system, and all the government officials that I hadn't really talked to when I was filming this tiger, because I was trying to be this guy that was quiet in a jeep, just getting footage and not dealing with them. But now I had to really deal with them and really understand how a tiger reserve is managed. And that's the one thing that I learned from this film, that most of these wildlife docs, they kind of portray these wild areas as expansive and inviolate and perfect. And you can kind of do that. You just cheat your camera away from the problem and show this thing, and then people are at home on their 4K TVs thinking this is this awesome place. And then the reality is most wildlife spaces are managed. And
mhm.
just on the fringes, sometimes within them, there's a lot of problems. And I think this film allowed me to show everyone the reality of where our wildlife is. That these tigers hardly have any space, that these ideal spaces for them are not as ideal, that they're compromised, and the governments and they are doing the best they can, but the situation is so bad, the habitat is so limited, and there's so much human population around that they're just imperfect systems, and they're managing within that imperfect system. And I think the reason they removed T24 is not because they were like, oh, we hate this tiger, he's this crazy man eater. It was more like the system's not perfect, and we have to make some kind of a call, because his territory is so close to pilgrims going into the tiger reserve, so close to the village. There's no buffer in Ranthambore in a traditional sense. It's supposed to be around the entire core, but it's more separated in Ranthambore. So I think I don't know exactly, but I think all of that went into their thoughts when they were moving him.
Yeah, see, you know what, you bring up something really fascinating. You're right. When we see most films, they're sweeping natural narratives, the drone flies over it and you see
Yeah,
all the animals out in their preserve, or they're on safari and they're over there.
yeah,
But you've put it right in the traffic.
yeah.
Because that's I understand. Well, you didn't. That's the way it is. What did you learn about that? What does it mean to balance territories? Because there's a relationship going on here that we don't usually see.
I mean, if you go to Ranthambore, any of these tiger reserves, you're staying in a hotel, and then you drive in 15 minutes to an hour to go inside. But as you go in, there's villages and there's people trying to sell you hats of the tiger reserve. And then, and then within minutes you're inside the tiger reserve, and then very often you'll see villagers inside of it, whether they're invading illegally or legally to go to the pilgrims. And I just, this film made me show that. And it's almost ridiculous and laughable when I see pictures on social media of like, I'm in the wild with this tiger, because I know what it's really like. You were probably there with like 20 other jeeps with a lot of noise, and like you were, and a mile out was a village, and so I almost think it's somewhat an ecological injustice to be continuing to show these spaces as pristine
Mhm.
as they aren't, because they aren't. It's almost like this is what we want it to be. And I think T24, although we have gorgeous shots, etc., I think it shows the interplay between humans that are just outside critical tiger habitat, who are really important, by the way. Like these people in the village that people point a finger at for going in, they're the ones with a really low carbon footprint. They're the ones dealing with tigers who can become vermin for them. It's okay for us who are sitting away, at home watching TV or whatever, to point a finger, but we're not dealing with a tiger coming in and killing our family or our goats or whatever it is. Or if you and I were friends in a neighborhood, if I had to go say hi to you at night, but I had to consider walking by a field with a tiger, I'd have a different perspective on this animal. So I think T24 allows for a combination of all that. If you want to come in and watch a murder mystery, there's that. If you want to come in and watch good looking footage of tigers, there's that. But if you want to get a good conservation as well, a message as well, which is what I hope people get, that's definitely there as well.
Yeah, I my kids always, they always make, well, not make fun of me. They always bring it up. Tigers are like one of my favorite animals. I
Oh,
adore them. We're at the zoo, and I love staring into their eyes. There's something mesmerizing about those eyes. It's just gorgeous. I'm at the zoo. There's a certain level of perceived safety that I have just by walking in the door and paying for my ticket. I'm not worried about that. But this is where I think the doc is so interesting because, I mean, what do you think our responsibility is, or their responsibility is for the rights of the animal kingdom? Because we're fighting for the rights of T24, but there are families as well. Like you said, if you're walking out at night or need to get into the field, like this is a natural habitat for a living predator.
yeah. I mean, I think that we're not the only ones on the planet. These animals are also here. I think they deserve their space. I think to motivate people, there's obviously an ethical responsibility, but there's also like an economic incentive in preserving these wild spaces. There's tourism money for the locals right outside of there. There's ecosystem services for these national parks because they fight climate change, they control soil erosion, they preserve other biodiversity. And I also think the earth is a more beautiful space when we have these wild spaces, and there should be something where humans say, we don't have to go like everywhere. Because I'm one of those people too who wants to go like hiking somewhere or go to eat somewhere no one was there. But now I've changed my mind about it. Like, maybe I can just go to this stupid cafe where there's like 100 other humans, because that's where I'm supposed to be. And so I think there's something about, if you want to have a world which has wild space, if you want to have a world where there's mythological, national parks, then maybe you don't have to discover like everything. Maybe you just leave some things for these animals.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, one of the other things that comes up in the doc, and it's honestly, it's just a question I never asked myself before, frankly. I mean, we often tell the story from the perspective. Well, I guess every story tries to. Let me redo that. One of the things I noticed in the documentary is that you try and balance perspectives, both human and animal and natural. And I love the conversation that takes place about blame, because there is one taking place, or you've got people saying it's a tiger, we're in his habitat, and at the same time you've got people, like we said, that says, hey, this is, but we need to go in here or whatnot. But there's this question of whether or not we can blame T24. I was wondering what your opinion was on that. Can you blame T24 for being a tiger?
Well, I mean, so that's a pretty layered, like nuanced kind of argument. So the Yeah, you can't blame him for being a tiger, and you could argue that in a way, like the ultimate big jungle cat, tigers should be killing humans left and right because that they're top predators. But to manage a tiger reserve, you have to make an overall conservation decision, and that's the decision that the chief wildlife warden and the field director believe they made. But I think that there are no perfect calls in wildlife. You don't really know what to do, right? And I don't blame them because should they have waited for a potentially another attack? Should they have removed him after the second attack? Because the law allows the state to even shoot these animals, right?
Oh,
This is coming back from the days when hunters were allowed to go hunting and culling, etc. So it was a controversial decision because T24 was kind of a famous tiger because an activist decided to move the court system multiple times. Um, for me, like I think it's in an ideal world, and we don't live in one. The core area is this pristine, expansive, inviolate space where tigers rule, and there's no human invasion, and there's this buffer, and outside the buffer there's the human settlement, and then there's my hotel, and then there's cities, right? And if a tiger left all that and was seeking out human prey inside the cities or villages, then of course that tiger is a rogue problem animal. And generally, those are the traditional man eaters that have been shot or have broken canines or whatever. T24 was a large, healthy male, and you could argue he's a man eater, or you could argue that he's just a guy with a personality that would take a baseball to your bat to your head if you broke into his house, right? So it's just maybe someone breaks into your place, you call the cops and you run, or maybe you kill him. I don't know. So to me, he was just a dominant male, and but there are tiger experts in the film that have very specific opinions, and I'm the first one to say they probably know more about this than me. I'm just a filmmaker documenting all the opinions, and I try to be as neutral as possible.
yeah, well, absolutely. And I will say, you talk about personality. You've obviously done a good job because I actually got kind of mad at T27. I'm like, yo, that's his woman.
57, 57.
257. I was like,
Yeah.
wait a second. And then I went, wait, it's a tiger. That's
Yeah.
because the way it's told is like, and he moved in on it. I was like, whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah, 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 yeah. No,
That felt
for
even
sure.
worse.
Yeah, no, 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 for sure. But that was an argument by the activists, and also an NGO there, called Tiger Watch. There was a paper they wrote about potentially a new male coming in to kill T24's cubs, because that does happen. Now, the cubs didn't get killed by 57. I don't want to give too much away about the
Right.
movie, but there is this drama of when he gets removed about a new male coming in. And look, we documented it and we got hundreds of shots, but obviously I put the most compelling ones.
It's true.
Yeah.
You know, having said that, I mean, I know this started off, I mean, it became so much more. Started off as a documentary, Tigers. Was there anything that you learned about them that really surprised you about them as a species in the midst of all of this?
I think what I learned, they're very efficient, hunters, and they're also very intelligent about it. Like they make these decisions about they're going to spend the most limited amount of energy hunting prey. And I learned that a lot about T24, who would almost never hunt. Like he would just take a kill from somebody else or do something explosive if the kill came like really close. Because you got to remember, like if they hunt and they sprain their leg, or they hurt their claw or their teeth, they can't hunt for the next one, or some other tiger will come and kill them. So I learned that. But I also learned about this really like evocative interactions they have, with the T24 is still being a father to these cubs, and they're kind of like rolling on him and upsetting him, and he'll let them share a little bit of meat, but after a while they're like, okay, you're not going to have all this meat. And so that to me was, I'm wondering like what's going on there. And also I don't know what he thought about me, because very often he would just like look at me and just like keep looking at me, and I was like, is he I don't know what he's doing. But I just want to thank him for giving me all this time, because he would just hang out in a very relaxed way with me for like hours on end. And it was almost like we weren't there after a while.
That impressed me actually. I was watching that and I realized at a few points, I think you shoot from behind and he's there, and I'm like, dude, like all it all it takes
Yeah,
is for him to get ticked. I don't want a selfie right now, and
yeah.
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Um, honestly, Warren, the film is great. I'm just wondering what do you hope audiences take away from it?
Well, I mean, well, first of all, I mean, I hope they're actually enjoying the film. I just think that if they want, I think it's an enjoyable film to watch. But there's a conservation message, and I think the best way to deliver that message to make a film that's actually compelling and something that you want to actually enjoy watching. So to me, the message would be that we love large predators, and if you want them to be around for future generations, we have to understand that they need to have their space and we can't encroach on their habitat if we want them to be around for future generations.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate the time to chat with you. I really wish you the best. The film's great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time. And have a happy
Thank you.
holidays, Merry Christmas, all of them. Thank you so much.
Don't worry, like you never